Peace and blessings, and welcome back to Heritage Hip-Hop. Now, Heritage Hip-Hop, we believe that hip-hop is God's culture, which is our culture, and we celebrate the Most High by being hip-hop in its truest form. And today I have somebody on Heritage Hip-Hop that talks about not only the truest form of hip-hop, but how to grow hip-hop. So before he introduces himself, make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment, help us build this platform so we can represent you, the foundation of hip-hop, God's people. Please introduce yourself to everybody.
What's good, everybody? My name is Kurt Nice. I'm what some people consider the originator of the video mixtape, Shades of Hip-Hop. Started back in the 1990s, creating a brand new platform for artists to express themselves, which was actually video mixtapes, which was an uncensored version of what we got on mainstream from mainstream music. Nowadays, it's everywhere. You know, everything's uncensored. Everybody has a platform to say and do whatever they want. But back in the day, it wasn't really like that. So there was only a few of us that were actually out there promoting the full culture of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Not just MCing and DJing, but the actual culture of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like, so b-boying, breaking, you know, beatboxing, the other elements like knowledge, street entrepreneurialism, fashion, you know, some of the language, some of the things that we use to grow our actual culture. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just about rapping. You know what I'm saying? We tried to promote the whole culture, what was going on in society and all that. So from there, you know, did Shades of Hip-Hop, and like so many things that go on, the elements that we were presenting were copied and other people used them, and we appreciated that. But at the same time, people don't always use the things that you create for what you create them for. Like, so people don't always follow in the path of what you're doing, but they see what you're doing and then flip it. So that's the same thing that happened in hip hop culture. What I saw happen to video mixtapes is the same, you know, bastardization of hip hop culture that happened as well much later on. But at the time, we were supporting the true school hip hop culture throughout the 90s. Then in the 2000s, like I said, things shifted a little bit. I took more of a back seat. I started doing more independent promotion, you know, really started my own business as far as like doing graphics and promotion for people. You know, back when people used to make CDs and stuff like that. So designing promotional artwork for different artists and stuff like that. It went to in the 2000s. And from there, was able to latch onto one last final way, I feel like, of securing and promoting for real hip hop, which was by working with KRS-ONE as his marketing director when we brought out the gospel of hip hop. So, and I say it was like a one final ditch effort to make hip hop culture be represented in rap music, because I feel like all that time, it was a great time. This was from like 2007 to about 2011 or so. Working with KRS-ONE, promoting the gospel hip hop, bringing back some of the true school hip hop formats to people's eyes for the first time. And in actuality, I feel like we was at the funeral of rap music. You know what I'm saying? So that's my introduction. You could take it from there, though.
That's a lot to peel back. So let's go back to what you said in the beginning, how you said you are one of, if not the forefather of the video mixtape.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this. When it comes to hip hop, everybody can focus on that one lyric, that one beat, or that one song that made hip hop come alive for them. For me, it was Video Music Box. It wasn't even the video or the music. It was the fact that I can go somewhere and experience the culture that I'm not seeing, that I'm a part of somewhere else. Your spin on it was, we're gonna bring you to the culture so that you can see it no matter where you are. What do you, let me ask you this. What is the elevation of Shades of Hip-Hop from Video Music Box's initial influence?
All right. Well, basically, see, we start out in similar ways. Now, Ralph is a pioneer. Like, my inspiration came from Ralph McDaniels and Fab Five Freddy. That's where video mixtapes come from. They never did video mixtapes. Ralph McDaniels and Fab Five Freddy never did a video mixtape in their life. They did, videos. Obviously, people know who Fab Five Freddy is, but go back into the lineage of Fab Five Freddy. He was a cultural caretaker, like back in the Wild Style days and that. You know what I'm saying? Like he was a cultural caretaker. And the same thing was for Ralph McDaniels. Now, behind the scenes, he acted as a cultural caretaker. He would be getting the interviews and getting the information. And like when you would watch Video Music Box, you would get that feeling. However, it wasn't the whole thing. It wasn't the whole thing. Now, the reason why I say that we come from similar areas is I was doing cable shows too. Like back then, there was no such thing as YouTube. There was no such thing as social media. There was barely such a thing as the internet. You know what I'm saying? Like, and as a matter of fact, in the town that I lived in, back then I lived in Plainfield, New Jersey. I'm from Plainfield. And back when I was in high school in the 80s, I was actually one of those black nerds that actually started the first bulletin board at Plainfield High School, which was the precursor to the internet. It was just a series of bulletin boards where you would have like information stored on a hard drive at that location, and then people could log onto it through a modem, through the phone, and then access it. Now, at that same time, when there was barely no internet, there was such a thing as like cable shows, like cable, public access cable. And that's what Ralph McDaniel was on. He was on public access cable in New York. And we're right across the water on public access cable in New Jersey. And what we was able to do was take that cable show that we had, where we was doing getting the same type of interviews and everything that Ralph was getting, same type of stuff that you will see on Yo MTV Raps. All the regional cable shows, they had their little own version of Yo MTV Raps or Video Music Box, which we had the same. I was doing a show called In Tune at Comcast Cable, right? Actually, it was Store Cable before Comcast bought it. But back in Store Cable days, yeah, we would have our own little video show, play videos. The labels would all send us they would send us the videos at the same time that they sent them to MTV. So we would have the same videos, except we would play the hot shit though. Like we would play the shit that we liked. We weren't told what to play. So anybody that sent us dope videos, we would be able to play them. So our playlist actually was different than theirs. It was more like Video Music Box. But then as we continued on and was doing interviews and shit like that with people and going to the press days and stuff like that, we would start getting a whole bunch of material that we couldn't use on the air because it was cursing, it was cats smoking weed, it was cats drinking. We couldn't use none of that on the air. People, like, nobody wanted to go through that shit and try to edit out all the curses and nothing like that, right? So that's where Shadez of Hip-Hop was born. That footage that I had, I would always put it on like little tapes just for myself. Like, yo, this is some of the hot shit, and I would just show it to some of my boys. I'd be like, yo, check this shit out that I just got from here. Like, I can't show this on the show, but this is the other shit that we ain't gonna have on this week. And I would show it to them, and then I would start lending them the tape, and then they would never give it back to me. So then I just started making a tape and then selling it to them. Like, look, you ain't gotta give it back, but you gotta give me at least $10 or something for the tape and that, you know. So that's where that idea came from. It just came from showcasing all the material that we couldn't put on the air on public access. And that's the same thing that, you know, I'm sure Ralph McDaniels has plenty of this type of footage. He just never really showed it nowhere because he couldn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, unless you put it out independently, you wouldn't have been able to show none of this footage nowhere. So that's how we started out doing that.
What's amazing about that story is that there's always something that happens behind the scenes, and you were capturing the moment. Why do you think the moment in hip hop is just as big as the record or the video?
Oh man, that's a great question. That's a great question. Because, see, hip hop, you know, not unlike other genres. Because other genres of music too, like in rock and roll or whatever, there's scenes. There's what's called a scene, and there's moments in hip hop where there's a vibe, and it's not just in that vibe. You can't fully grasp it on a record. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't, like, you can get a sense of it, you get an idea of it, but you can't fully get that whole feeling of being in like a dimly lit club with the scent of weed smoke going in the background, people rolling blunts in the corner while MCs is like battling each other in the corner and showing each other their new verses. Producers is talking about beats in the corner. People are making new collaborations and new forming new groups that are gonna shock the world in a couple of months. You know what I'm saying? Like this is where the shit is happening, where you're like the MCs get that vibe and that vibration to make them want to spit. These are the people that you're trying to impress. All of these hip hoppers that came out to feel some real hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So those moments and stuff that we was able to capture can only be captured sort of in the background, I guess. Like people don't like people wasn't really acting like they real selves. You know what I'm saying? Like when it was time to be in front of the camera like that. You know what I'm saying? Like people wasn't like people would give you their made up persona. People would give you their, you know, what the record label told them to say when they come out there and they ask you questions. So when you get them to smoke and drink and just be chilling in the background, that's when you see how they really feel about stuff. That's when you get their real commentary about life and what they feel about rapping and this and that. Like that's what led to some of the more major scenes that we was able to capture. Like I'm sure everybody might not know that I did it, but like the cipher, the illest cipher I feel in the history of hip hop that's on that's been recorded on video was the cipher between Pun and Mos Def and DMX and Cannabis and John Forte and Mike Geronimo. That cipher right there was from Shades of Hip-Hop. That was something that I recorded on my Super VHS 450 on Panasonic AG 450. You know what I'm saying? It was regular VHS, Super VHS camera, right? Not even as good as your camera phone, right? Not even as good as look the quality as your camera phone right now. But I recorded that, and that gave you the behind the scenes. Them conversations might have happened a lot. Them conversations might have happened a lot in the 90s, but guess what? Ain't none of them on video. So we ain't never gonna see that shit. All right. But this one we actually got to see. This one was where you was able to see rappers when they mask was off a little bit. They was just being themselves. This is how they act when they're around each other. All right. They start arguing a little bit. They start getting little digs at each other. They start saying things and warning each other about different things and talking a little bit different. That's what you were able to see. You know what I'm saying? Behind the scenes type of stuff. That's what Shades of Hip-Hop was able to bring to.
I think the reason why I like Shades of Hip Hop so much was a little bit more than that. See, I'm from Essex County, so Essex County was known for the battle. People went to people's blocks. You had the rap. You know what I'm saying? And I call that cipher culture. Mm-hmm. And one thing Shades of Hip Hop always kept alive was cipher culture. That you caught the cipher and people in the freestyle. You even had one with 50 Cent.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? You have Jay-Z spitting some rhymes on the stage, but his stage rhymes were not as impactful as that freestyle cipher that you talk about. Why do you think it's important to capture the cipher just as it's important to capture somebody on stage?
Again, it's because people like they have that persona on, like they have that, and you know what? Nowadays, with battles being so popular and stuff like that, stuff has changed. So people have their stage persona on when they battling and stuff now a little bit too. But back then, you know, it was very distinct when you was trying to present an image. It was the actual image. There was A&Rs and stuff working with these artists to tell them like, yo, don't say this when you go in the interview. Say this when you go in the interview. Act like this. Don't lean away from this. Don't curse too much. Don't do this. Don't do that. Right? So they're giving you their made up persona. But when they're in the heat of the trenches and they feel like they about to be outshined by the next man just in this club, forget a camera, because it wasn't about a camera recording you back then. Now it is though. So people have a little bit of a different, you know, feel to it. But back then, you would never, there was no cameras like recording those ciphers. This was just for respect right now. Save your respect right now. Just what you gonna do. And then that's what you had to do. So that the real cat would come out. Then you would really see who they was. Like you wouldn't be able to get their little flim flam that they was trying to push on the TV. That's not gonna, you know, impress nobody right here. We in a cipher right now. I see you, I see him. What you gotta say? I can hear both of y'all. You're saying all this shit you talking about, what you know, like what you got in this and that is not really amounting to nothing unless you could prove it right now. So that was part of the difference. Also, I feel like see, there was an era. See, when Shades of Hip Hop was coming up, that was the era before cats knew about their, you know, like their persona, like they was doing it for the record labels and stuff like that. But they didn't know how to do it themselves. Now everybody knows how to have their own like little media hype and persona because they got to do it for themselves on social media. But back then, people didn't have that as ingrained. Rappers weren't as ingrained with they was trying to be themselves. Like, you know, that was the era of so-called keep it real. Like we used to say that for a reason. You say it was like keep it real. Like motherfuckers used to try to keep it real. You understand? People would, you know, try to tell people the truth. Now, not so much. Niggas be front. You know what I'm saying? So it's different. You know what I mean?
I like how you said that because today, the VJ or video jockey, as it was called, is the norm, where everybody wanted to be the DJ, which had the disc and wanted to break the song. And it seems like the video has taken so much precedence that even the podcast is even kind of in that weird situation, because if it's a podcast you can see, it's different than one that you can just listen to. What is the responsibility of the new age VJ that they're not really applying to their product, you think?
All right. Well, that's a good one. And that's also a hard one. Because see, I feel like as creators, we're right now in the 2020, we're sort of in the same grounds, and we're in the same aspect of how it was in the 90s, where the mainstream music that they was pushing to us doesn't really speak to what we really feel. It's a shadow. It's like it's a facsimile of what people really believe and feel. It's some fake shit. You know what I'm saying? Like the mainstream music be some fake shit. Like, because it was that, people in hip hop culture wanted their voices heard, and they wanted the truth about everybody's existence to be represented. They wanted everybody to have their own voice, to be able to speak their truth, right? But when you give up that responsibility to be speaking the truth, and instead your responsibility is for clicks and getting paid, that's the problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, cats is like the video jockeys and this and that, or however you want to call the VJs, they're more concerned with making sure they have the clicks, making sure they can monetize their revenue. So they'll talk about any dumbass topic or whatever like that just to get a click. That's where World Star came from and everything. Like, just saying anything and doing showing any wild, revolting shit just to get a click. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to move cats away from that, because, you know, when money and stuff gets involved, cats do anything. Like, it was a similar thing to me, because like I hinted to earlier, like when we started doing video mixtapes and stuff, like we had cats smoking weed, we had cats, you know, on the block, we had a lot, you know, we were showing cats that could rap, but they happened to be, you know, selling whatever they were selling while we was out there on the corner or whatever, boom, 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 right? So when cats saw that, instead of emphasizing the essence of what we were talking about, people being free to express themselves however they wanted to without being uncensored, instead of that, they just saw the weed and the drugs. And it was like, yo, let's just put a mound of weed on the table, and then like have everybody rapping around that shit. Let's just show how many guns we got, just to show how raw we are out here. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they took it to the wrong, they learned the wrong lessons from it. You know what I'm saying? So when people learn the wrong lessons, that's how we end up in these situations. And a big part of it is people don't take responsibility for their own actions. And I say that to say this. I feel like Shadez of Hip-Hop was kind of responsible. Like, listen, go look back for anybody showing somebody really smoking weed on a fucking video, and actually Shadez of Hip-Hop was the first people. Because I know, like, I actually showed that on cable back in the 90s, like in 94, 95, when Patrick first came out. I showed me and her on a roof of Sony smoking weed. And like, it was our cable show, and it was in the middle of our show. So we knew nobody was going to see it except us. You know what I'm saying? Like, we knew nobody was going to really see it. So we just put it on. I aired that shit in the 90s because I said, you know what? If I'm going to show other cats smoking, let me show myself first. You know what I'm saying? But I take the responsibility that once I promoted it, in every tape that you saw niggas smoking weed and shit like that. That was one of the draws. That was one of the reasons why Nori loved us when we were at the Hip Factory. He was like, I love y'all niggas because I can just smoke weed and talk shit. You know what I'm saying? So people love that. But then the next DVDs that came out, and I'll name names, Smack DVD or whatever, like when they came out, they had cats just putting mounds of weed on the table and this saying that this is some raw shit. Look at this. And it wasn't really that raw. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't really that hip hop. You know what I'm saying to me? You know what I'm saying? So we like I kind of inspired certain niggas to do dumb shit too. So that's taking responsibility. You know what I'm saying? You got to take responsibility for the shit that you encourage niggas to do. You know what I'm saying? Like if you encourage niggas to do dumb shit, come on, man. Like you got to take the weight for that a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But right now, cats don't want to take no responsibility. So.
But that's unfair to yourself because I heard a world famous quote that the tool is not the issue. It's the person who's behind the tool and how they use it. You know what I'm saying? And you can say that you kind of influenced it, but you also influenced greatness. So the give and take has to come with it. So salute to you for acknowledging it, but I don't want you to bear that on yourself because with technology changing how hip hop is perceived, not what it is, what is the responsibility a new age artist has to take when putting out new age material, in your opinion?
Well, I feel the main thing is I feel that new artists have to do well. They don't have to because obviously they don't do it and shit. So I would want them to do like is to know the genre that you act like you represent and show respect to the cats that came before you because they're the ones that put you here. So that's why, like, anytime that I mention anybody ever do an interview with me talking about Shadez of Hip-Hop or anything like that, the first thing I always say is Fab Five Freddy and Ralph McDaniels because I know that there's without Ralph McDaniels and Fab Five Freddy, there's no me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't have been inspired to do the shit I do. So I try to do what they did, but do it like on something even greater or something like on a something different level. They have their greatness and all like that. I'm just saying I try to improve on the stuff that I liked about them. I'm not trying to make it worse. You know what I'm saying? Like cats out here trying to make whacker music than fucking MC Hammer. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't learn that lesson. Like bro, like go back and learn rhymes. Go back and respect the cats that came before you and understand that you didn't invent this style. That you have a little spin on this and that. But other people have used that style and respect the people that came out with it first and then grow from there though. You know what I'm saying? Don't act like, oh, I ain't gotta listen to Tupac, I ain't gotta listen to Biggie, I don't gotta listen to Run DMC, you know what I'm saying? Like I ain't gotta, go back to the Cold Crush Brothers. I ain't gotta do none of that because I can get my money right now. Yeah, that's why you end up destroying the genre. And again, all the responsibility is not on them though. It was the cats in my generation that inspired these niggas to do dumb shit. You know what I'm saying? It's the cats in my generation that like co-signed the whack shit. Like there's a lot of rappers that co-signed whack shit because they was trying to stay relevant. And I'm talking about from the top down. Okay? Like from the top down, if you understand what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody, like in hip hop, like that's a rapper, has co-signed whack niggas just so that they can stay relevant and so that they could be relevant to a new fan base. And because they did that, they didn't like keep it the quality up. The quality didn't stay up. That's why the quality's not there because they allowed anybody to just come in as long as they had a crowd. They was like, fuck it. There was no standards of anything. The standard is, do you make money? Okay. If that's the standard, guess what the quality of the music is? You know what I'm saying? So that's where we at right now with that. You know what I mean? So rappers like, and the other things like, be careful like taking life advice from like rappers. Because see, the rappers like, listen, and I love different rappers and this and that, and my people's rap and like I've rapped it back there, all of that good shit. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying anybody that chooses rap music as their career, part of their impetus is to become famous and successful and stuff. All right. And they have to, and there's part of the ego being fed there. So they're always going to be a little bit compromised when it comes to doing the 100% right thing. So when I look at Jay-Z making deals with the NFL about shit to do with black people and all that kind of shit, or if I look at, Ice Cube or 50 Cent, trying to dip their toe into politics with Trump and this stuff like that, that's because they have their own interests at heart above other things. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you can't they're not leaders in that sense. You know what I'm saying? They're not people that come up trying to do something for the people. They're more rappers. You know what I'm saying? That's everybody. KRS on down, everybody. Like, you know what I'm saying? KRS he's an MC too. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, and trust me, believe me, he's one of the most intelligent, uh, uh most conscious brothers and rappers specifically that I've ever met in my life. You know what I'm saying? But you know, he has flaws too. So don't get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got flaws, all right? So we can't sit here and not, you know, take that shit seriously. Like, you know, when we look at people, and one thing I'll say real quick too is, you know, and somebody pointed this out to me. I even back when I was like, this is probably like 2011 or so, because this is when I was working with Chris. I was doing promotion back when I still used to fuck with Facebook, and I don't really fuck with Facebook like that. But I used to get into deep discussions about hip hop and stuff like that. And a person put me up on this, and I actually believe this. I changed my opinion about certain things, which is, we always say that the 90s was the best era for hip hop. And he was like, no, it's not. It's not the 90s. The 90s is the best era for rap music. The 80s was the best era for hip hop. That's when breaking, b-boying, beatboxing, all of that shit was prevalent in the 80s. Like, especially the early 80s, before 85, that was the biggest era for hip hop, right? The biggest era for rap music was the 90s. That's when you had the best rappers alive. You know what I'm saying? Was all from all different genres, walks, originality from West Coast to East Coast, North to South. You had just variety of talent in all kinds of ways through the 90s, right? But it was rap talent, though. It wasn't like an expression of hip hop. And I'll say this, that I feel like that's what we're lacking. The rappers today don't have a full respect for hip hop. They have a respect for rap music and getting paid and being famous and making money. They don't have respect for like the culture of hip hop. The 90s era MCs, they still had that respect, and they would shout out different stuff, different elements. So when you got artists that's like talking about graffiti and talking about DJing, you know what I'm saying? If they bring in b-boying and stuff like that and dancing and stuff into their videos, that's when they're understanding the aspects of hip hop culture. You know what I'm saying? That's when they're understanding those full aspects. So the artists today, the way that they could get back to that essence is if by paying more tribute and attention to the actual aspects of hip hop culture. You know, the things that make up, it's not just rapping. You know what I'm saying? Hip hop is not just freaking rapping, man. You know what I'm saying? I wish we could have famous graffiti artists. Let them be the top niggas for a while. Let everybody be kissing like, oh, this nigga just sold this for that. And you know, and what's my man? Swiss Beats, he was trying it for a minute there, like to work with artists and shit. And you know, y'all can look that up, but we got to get into like promoting other aspects and forms of hip hop culture and bring those to the forefront.
I agree with you 100%. That's what Heritage Hip Hop does. Like we want to highlight everything hip hop. And though I don't go out, especially with, you know, now we can't with COVID going on. I don't get out to see a lot of people dancing and things. But one thing I do highlight is the art, and I'm not mean just graffiti art, because the major art influences we have in our time today is the anime generation.
Yeah,
they're taking a lot of hip hop art and putting it into cartoons, comic books. And shout out to everybody who follows Blurred Hop on Heritage Hip Hop, and we'll update that where we highlight those people who do that. But even with working with KRS-ONE, I want to ask you this, given what you said, because I don't believe hip hop was the best in the 90s. It was good for business in the 90s. I believe that part as much. But I want to ask you this. When you are an understudy to an MC or you're shadowing, he was your mentor at one point. What was the most important lesson he taught you, and what did you put into your work ethic to heighten that message?
Man, there's so many different lessons that I learned from Chris, man. There's so many different, like, just so many different places in life that I wouldn't expect to go and be. And just like on, you know, like from meeting people to all that kind of stuff and having experiences. Those are some of the great things, like traveling across the country. Like because I was on the road with KRS, I actually saw America for the first time. You know what I'm saying? Like that was one of the most important things that like kind of happened to me, like just, you know, to open my eyes wise as far as America. Like, you know, you might go on a plane to different places and stuff, right? Well, Well, actually, I don't know if you noticed, but see, KRS, he don't fly planes. He's scared to fly. Actually, I didn't ever say it exactly like that, but he don't fly. Like if he got to go across the seas to England or something like that, he takes the Queen Mary, which is a boat. That shit takes like a week to get there and shit, or at least 4 or 5 days and shit, right? And so when we went to California, we didn't fly. We took the train and drove. You know what I'm saying? Because he had a couple of cars and stuff like that. So we had to drive those cars back to California from New Jersey and shit. So we had to actually go across from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast by land and shit. So when you do that, you actually go through mad states. You actually end up going through mad different aspects of America. Like when you grow up on the East Coast, you grow up in New Jersey, you come to Newark and living in the East Coast, going to New York all the time, like that. You'll never realize how massive this country is and how empty and how much you should fucking respect civilization. You know what I'm saying? Like I had a much more respect for cities and civilization and being around people when you realize that this country is empty as hell and nature ain't no joke. Like you won't want to be out in the middle of fucking Utah in the middle of the night somewhere, bro. Like that's nothing but you will die out that bitch, man. Like like you don't want to be in a lot of places. Fuck the hood. I'd rather be in the hood than out in the desert. Like there's deserts in this country. You will not live till next week, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? When you come to the city and stuff, there's Dollar Tree, there's the chicken spot. You can get a chicken wing for like a $1. You know what I'm saying? You can hustle and get your money up. You can survive. You know what I'm saying? When there's cities like that. So you got to I appreciated civilization, you know what I'm saying, much more actually just by taking a trip across this country because of Chris. I'm getting these spam calls on me for some reason right now. I don't know why. So that was one thing. As far as work ethic and stuff like that, dude, we worked 24/7. Like when I was with, on the road with Chris, like we would wake up in the morning with getting ideas and stuff. There was always so much to do. And when you have a person that has so many, so much creative talent over so many years, that's so much to promote and stuff like that. And then on the top of that, we was dropping a book that he had taken like 14 years to write. So like just seeing the amount of talent and energy that he possessed inspired you to want to do more. You know what I'm saying? And inspired, like when you're around creative people and the people that are striving towards excellence, it makes you be better. You know what I'm saying? It makes you want to strive and do bigger things and stuff like that. So that's when they say when you surround yourself with people that ain't going nowhere, you don't go nowhere either. You say because you don't have that type of push. You don't have that type of push. So it's always good to be around ambitious people with ideas, people that are creative, because it inspires your creativity. But that's something I've always tried to pass on to other people too. Like when we was doing ATF and all that. Like that same inspiration that we was getting from Chris on the road, everybody wasn't able to go with us, but we would come back every weekend and bring it to the people, give them all the stories, give them all the insights of what's going on, and keep their energy level up and keep them hyped too, and keep them inspired and shit. So many, and from that, so many different people was, many cliques was born out of that, just from us working around the ATF and all that,
So you worked on the gospel of hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
What is the gospel of hip hop?
Well, see, the gospel of hip hop is one of the most in-depth, I think it's the most in-depth look at what hip hop culture is, what it was, what it is now, and what it could be. So it's really just an aspirational document. It's a document about this is all the shit that went into building up hip hop. These elements coming from, griots and coming from scat and tell you all the basic parts of it. Like this is what culture means. This is what hip hop culture came from. Give you all the background. These are some of the people that was influential in breaking and this and that. These are the elements of hip hop. Explains all that part. And then it says, well, what if we had the ability to create our own hip hop community? What would it look like? So it's not saying that we have that now or that we should even try to have it now. It's just saying, if we did have a hip hop community, what would it look like? So it's just speculating on that. So it goes into a whole bunch of ideas about how we should behave ourselves as hip hoppers, and like how we should interact with one another, and how we should value each other's skill sets, or evaluate each other's skill sets, not just value them, but evaluate their skill sets too. How do we know if somebody's being for real or not? All these kind of things. It was part of the reason that in 2001, there, like, members of the hip hop community came together and created a document, which was really mainly spearheaded by KRS-ONE, which is called the Hip Hop Declaration of Peace. All right, and then they presented it to the United Nations, UNESCO, the UN Educational Commission, and at the United Nations, is showing that, yo, we as hip hoppers feel like we're a part of this culture, and we're presenting this document to you. All right. Now, you know, that was right. It was like in July or so. This was before 9/11. So after 9/11 happened, you never heard anything else about it because 9/11 happened. So you never heard anything about that document or anything because it happened. They presented it to the UN right before 9/11 happened. Okay. So then that shit got, you know, faded away and stuff. But that was something, a document, and I actually have one in the other room, which I can show you at the end. But that's just a document that gives you like regular basic principles of how hip hoppers want to interact with each other. So it's just an aspirational document of like, how could we develop a for real culture based on some of the principles and ideas that we have. That's why we talk about hip hop is way more than rapping, babe. And that's not come from me. That's come from KRS. You ever say like he's the one that would have said that and said that many years ago. You know what I'm saying? But even back in the 90s, we knew that there was a hip hop culture that was way bigger than just rapping and DJing and stuff. It was our identity as Black people in the street in that. That was our identity. This is how we live. This is how we get along. This is some of the codes we use. This is how we talk to each other. This is how we dress and relate to each other. This is how our hierarchy consists of, like when we go out in the street, and this is what we know about street knowledge and this and that. So we were, you know, trying to develop and get respect for a culture that we were creating. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the gospel of hip hop was all about, was to try to encapsulate and tell you what is hip hop culture. Look at the gospel of hip hop and it tells you what hip hop culture is.
See, I believe in that too, but I think my understanding of hip hop is a little different. I haven't read the document, so I have no opinion of it, and I'm not going to talk about it like I do. You know, that's called sensationalism. I don't do that. Or lying. You know, sometimes we call it fake news in the Trump era. You know what I'm saying? I don't do that. But my understanding of hip hop is more of a spiritual thing. You know, like I believe hip hop is God, straight up. There's nothing other way to put it, straight up. Because I believe, like everybody says, like the drum is the heart of the beat, but your heart is a drum. And the first song you hear is your mother's heartbeat in her womb. So right there, we're gonna put drums as a part of hip hop. There goes your drum. That's spiritual. I think hip hop deals with harmony because it's the marriage of sound, whether it's scratching, the drum, bass, hi-hats, MC's voice, you know what I'm saying? Even like Premier use static, you know what I mean? And harmony, biologically, is when your body systems work together to give you life. That's hip hop, you know what I'm saying? If I had to put it another way, when we go through life, I always say this, when we walk through life, we take journeys, we take steps. When you write notes on paper, that line that you write that note on is called a step. Right. So it perfectly mirrors our existence. And when you look at that hip hop in that form, it may, as an art form, genre, culture has started in the inner city, but now it's worldwide. With your expertise in hip hop culture, how has the international stage helped grow hip hop, and where is it in relation to our understanding of hip hop today?
Okay, all right. You know what? I'm gonna go into that, but just to aid this conversation real quick, I didn't want to break into what you were saying while I was doing this. But I got a gospel of hip hop and everything right in the next room. Let me just go get it right quick. But this here, this is the gospel of hip hop right here. This is the gospel. See, and it was intentionally. I don't know if is that backwards. I don't know if that's backwards, but it is anyway. It says
it's good.
Right, it says the KRS-ONE, just like you were saying, the movement, moments and movements. All right, this is more than a moment; it's a movement. But the movement has begun. Thanks for everything you are, hip hop. This is this right here does speak to what you're talking about. Everything that you're talking about, like when you're talking about God and you're talking about harmony, all that's spoken about in the gospel of hip hop. When we now, and a shout out to Simone Parker too, which is KRS-One's wife. She had a big hand in certain aspects of the gospel of hip hop, such as like when you see any of the acronyms and stuff like that in here, like you'll see a lot of words as acronyms, just like the word hip hop, you know, is an acronym, and it means different things. But when you talk about God, God has an acronym or whatever as well, which is the guide of our direction. You know, so that's what the gospel hip hop is one aspect of when we talk about God, we're talking about that. If you want to call it being, the all, if you want to call it Jah, if you want to call it Jehovah, God, Allah, you know what I'm saying? The oneness or whatever you want to call it. We're talking about something that's guiding our direction and keeping in that harmony. That's, you can't escape that harmony. There's a pendulum and a rhythm of the whole universe. You ain't outside that. You live in the universe. You know what I'm saying? You're a part of the universe. You can't escape that harmony. You can't escape that beat. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a beat going on. If you want to feel the beat of the universe or make your own beat, it's up to you, but it's gonna relate to the beat that's going on in the universe though. And it's gonna be either opposed to it, it's gonna be in harmony with it. So people that want to behave in harmony with the universe can act one way. There's other people that's gonna, gonna go against the grain though. You know what I'm saying? And that's how they want to live. So, it's like it's not like we could stop them. And in life is gonna have that balance. And we I feel like we're able to handle it. I think that we can handle it. We can handle the ups and downs of hip hop. But I mean, I'm sorry, you had a second part to your question. Say that second part to your question again.
Being that you have experience with the international form of influence of hip hop, what is you think the international influence of hip hop, and how does it measure to our domestic understanding of hip hop?
See, now that's a subject that's kind of close to my heart in the sense of for the past 10 years probably. Because, all right, when I first really started working with Chris, one of the first things that I had to do was establish a online presence for him and stuff like that. Because, at that time, like in 2006, 2000, like if you go back to like 2006 or so, KRS didn't really have like an online presence or anything like that. Like people like was disrespecting the old cats. They wasn't giving a shit about hip hop like that. You know what I'm saying? Cats was starting to get in Little B, and these niggas was starting to pop up, and all these cynical trolly rappers, like even Tyler Creator came up after that, but Little B especially, like all these trolly type of rappers that came up that were not having any respect for hip hop, and they were making a joke out of rap music and stuff, and having all these whack ass lyrics and stuff. So one of the first things I had to do for Chris was build up his online presence. And when I started doing his online work, the first people that started responding to KRS-One was overseas cats. They the ones that appreciate and respect these older cats. You know what I'm saying? They're the ones that respect and appreciate for real hip hop culture. Like when some of these younger cats around me was like, who the fuck is Run DMC? I don't care about KRS-One. Like Slick Rick, I don't care about him. Or like, so what? He's old. That's old music and stuff like that. When they were all saying that shit, I would be talking and conversing with overseas cats through Facebook and this and that, developing different forums and promotion for the gospel hip hop and KRS-One. And all these overseas cats was the ones responding and backing us up and showing us the love and shit like that. And it'd be pockets. There's pockets over here. There was a thorough pocket in Newark of for real hip hoppers that used to go to the ATF and all like that. There's a for real pocket, now of Newark hip hoppers. But the mass of people in Newark that listen to rap music, them niggas ain't for real hip hop like that. You know what I'm saying? They don't give a shit about for real hip hop like that. But the overseas cats, and the reason why is because, see, in America, we're more about trends and like fast food and shit that you get quick, and it was hot right now, but it's corny now. You know what I'm saying? Like just ignoring shit. But see, overseas, they have a respect for their heritage more because their cultures are older. Like, so their heyday wasn't yesterday. Their heyday, like America's heyday is right now and yesterday, okay? So they can only think back to when they used to be dope hundreds of years ago. France, Europe, London, England, they used to be dope hundreds of years ago. They used to be the man. So they always understand that, having respect for the olden times. Americans, not so much. Americans respect the new shit. You say, for us, like, people's got to start realizing and growing the hell up, though. You know what I'm saying? Because that shit don't last. We can't keep doing that. You know what I'm saying? We can't keep doing it. So, but that's where we were. So specifically, in relationship to hip hop, in the past couple of years, I was working with Sun Tzu doing Funk You Cafe, right? We was playing old school break beats and all the music that inspires hip hop samples, the music that inspires what producers and stuff look for when they're making dope boom bap hip hop beats, right? So we're playing all the funk and all like that. We play some hip hop and this and that too, right? So with that, I was always promoting the fact that for the past, for the past 10 years, I'd say, to me, the crown of hip hop left America like 10 years ago and it went to England. I feel like the most dopest underground hip hop cats that make current dope underground music is all in London. They're all in England. They're in the UK, right? They're all in that area. Like, we'll see, because we can't understand the ones that are in France and all them, because some niggas don't speak English like that. But the ones that speak English that Americans will be able to understand is in the UK. That they have the best underground hip hop scene. It would make you think that the 90s was never over. It was like it's a continuation of the 90s, because all the slang is up to date and current, but they're using boom bap beats, or even if they use some trap beats here and there, their cadence, their flow, the reason why they're spitting is like the MCs of days in the past. Now I'll tell you specific groups. If you want to just go to High Focus Records in particular, mostly everybody on their label is dope, right? But specifically, my personal favorite UK rapper is a rapper by the name of Jest, Jehst. Check him out. One of the dopest, MCs, period. He's one of my personal favorite MCs like that. 4 Owls, dope hip hop group. Jam Baxter, Split Profits. You can go to Dirty Dyke, Dat Kid, Ramps and Bones. So anybody on High Focus. And then of course you got some of your females that are real dope too. Lady Leisha is the top. Lady Leisha is she's probably the best MC, although there's other ones that are dope too that you might not agree with if you like Lady Leisha. Like, for instance, I'll say right now, Pagey Cakey. I like Pagey Cakey, even though they had beef and there's some bullshit, and that's dummy shit to me, because I like both of them. You know what I'm saying? But you got some dope females and stuff over there too. So check out the UK hip hop scene. And I'm not really just talking about grime. Grime is the trendy version of music, of drill music and like almost like trap type music over here, but it's still better than all the fucking drill music and trap music over here. Grime is, but grime is not the top hip hop music form. The underground hip hop of the UK is where it is. Okay, so check for those. Just check out High Focus, man. You won't be disappointed if you like for real hip hop.
I ain't gonna lie. You put me on in the 4 hours. Yeah. I went to the event that you're talking about. No, it was an event that you did with Sun Tzu. Shout out to Buddha Monk. Yeah, that did an event at Rutgers, I believe it was. And you talking about the 4 hours, and I was like, superheroes or something? Like, what the hell, 4 hours? You know what I'm saying? But me, I'm a researcher. So when I was like, oh, they got songs with Premiere?
Yes.
Okay. And I was like, you know what? I have to get used to the accent, but the music was good. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you like the culture itself, and you like not like a genital jockey, you will appreciate what it is. And not to be funny, heritage hip hop naturally went overseas. We've covered MCs from Australia. We got Omen, Omen, the Japanese rapper.
Oh, okay, true.
Omen 44. We had Optimistic, Lady P. I have the councilwoman of Sierra Leone, who's a rapper.
Okay.
So shout out to you and my partner BQ, salute, because the overseas movement was the natural progression of heritage hip hop. Because if we are truly celebrating the spirit of hip hop, you can't just stay in New Jersey.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You know that.
I got 2 more questions for you before we end out. My one question is, the 90s predicted what hip hop is today.
Yeah.
It said that real hip hop is going to go underground, and you're going to have to find it. How do you think people find hip hop today, and how does it stay found and not lost again?
Well, one really good thing that I see is, on YouTube, which is the medium of today and the immediate future. You know what I'm saying? YouTube has, to me, and if it's not apparent right now, in the next year or so, it'll be apparent that YouTube has eclipsed regular TV as the main source of where people are watching information. I'm talking about specifically on YouTube, like even more than like Netflix or anything, because that Netflix is just movies and all like that. So yeah, people watch Netflix and all like that, but people get their actual information from like YouTube and that. So when we as we progress and stuff like that, as we get our information out more, it's going to be through these platforms that that we're able to expand. I don't know if everybody is willing to I don't know if everybody is like, see, everybody don't see the truth. Everybody don't believe the same shit. So I don't know, man. That's a hard question. That's a hard question. I don't know. I just feel like if in the future, if people are given the opportunity to, I don't know, like if people are given the opportunity to try to get into a new way of, I don't know, maybe rephrase the question a little bit for me so I can maybe come up with a different way. I don't know.
How do we keep hip hop found so we don't lose it, especially in the 90s that predicted that real hip hop will go underground? You have to look for it. Like put it like this. Let me rephrase it this way. Millions of songs come out daily, but hip hop doesn't get recognized as much. How do we keep it so hip hop to be recognized and found and not lost?
Well, see, that's very well. Play this. One thing good that I see with YouTube, right? Because that's where everybody gets their information. Like, where else are you going to hear about fucking hip hop? Where else are you going to hear about hip hop? Like, except on, like on social media, right? So one thing that's good about YouTube is that you have reactors, right? So you have like a lot of young reactors nowadays where they like are telling their peers that, oh, check this shit out, and like they'll get the recommendations. Like it's in a way, it's almost like, you have this divide where older people, like older hip hoppers and younger hip hoppers, like don't fully communicate. So younger hip hoppers don't fully respect the opinions of older hip hoppers like that. They say, oh, you just old, so they don't listen to nothing you say. So if they hear their other younger peers saying shit, that's the only way they'll fucking listen to it. And that's the only way they'll like maybe accept it or something like that. Cause it's like you can't tell young motherfuckers nothing sometimes. You're saying like you can't tell them shit. Like they ain't gonna accept nothing you say. Like so it's like the only way they'll accept it is if, and the only way they'll be exposed to it is if the smart ones amongst them, right, are elevated. You know what I'm saying? We elevate these, like that's why I promote, like, check out Just Jammin'. He's a young dude that does YouTube reactions, and he reacts to all like old school music. He reacts to new music, a little bit of new music too, but mostly like old school music and stuff like that, between hip hop and R&B and all that stuff. And I love seeing these young reactors getting experiencing this new music for the first time. Like it's great to see them like just catch what we caught. Like when we heard it the first time, they're catching the same shit. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like promoting a bunch of young reactors to react to old music, and let me just finish that point by saying that's how one of the reasons why Eminem is so popular on the internet, because he has a bunch of stands and stuff that's on the internet that anytime you post an Eminem reaction, they'll fucking give you so many likes. You'll kiss your ass and give you so many likes because he has like a big internet following of young white kids that don't have nothing better to do than to be on his dick all day on the internet, right? So let that be a lesson to other people. It's the internet that kind of influences them more. You know what I'm saying? So through the internet, I'm saying, let's big up some of these young reactors and these younger people that have good music, the Kendrick Lamars, the Joey Badasses, the young people that are promoting the for real essence and aspects of hip hop, promote them and promote those younger people, and then they'll influence their peers. But we gotta give, it's just like the same reason why Cardi B said that she make wet ass pussy song. She's like, if I make a conscious song, y'all niggas ain't gonna buy it. She's like, she make the shit that people buy. So that's what, that's where her influence, is. You say, so when you support the young people that's doing conscious shit, then they'll have more influence. So my thing would be to promote hip hop more further. And that question that you're saying would be to support the young people that's promoting for real hip hop. Because they ain't fully gonna listen to us. You know what I'm saying? They ain't gonna listen to me. You know what I'm saying? They gonna listen to the older niggas telling them about some good shit. Like they ain't necessarily gonna listen to that. Our job would be to support the young motherfuckers that do listen so that they influence their friends and shit. So that's the way I guess I could say that. All right.
Very eloquently said, because until we put our money behind it, nobody cares.
Right.
And my final question of the first part of our interview is this. I always trace my roots back to Jersey. And in the scope of what hip hop is, what everybody says they miss about hip hop perfectly describes what New Jersey hip hop is.
Yeah.
What is New Jersey hip hop rank to you in your understanding of hip hop culture?
Man, New Jersey hip hop in particular has always been, it's to me is the best hip hop because this is the hip hop that I grew up in, but it's always been the most open hip hop. See, unlike New York, where the ego shadowed you from having that clear vision of reality. See, that's why New York fell off so fucking hard and shit. When you got these butt ass rappers like Tekashi 6ix9ine coming out of fucking New York, that's an insult to New York. You know what I'm saying? But that's what happens because the ego of New York was so great that they weren't able to see clearly what was going on. Whereas in New Jersey, we always had to have that humility. We always had to have a little bit of humility because New York was right there. So niggas can't act too bold because like the Bronx and New York and everything is right there. So niggas had to try to strive to be the best out of being for real with it. You know what I'm saying? That's why we have artists like Redman, who like has a whole catalog of dope music where every rhyme damn near, it sounds like he's trying to do something. He's trying to still prove himself. Because in New Jersey, we had that aspect of, we right here next to New York, so we always got to strive to prove ourselves, which makes us better, right? But we still always have that humility where we just ain't resting on our laurels and talking shit when we really ain't the man no more. So we was right in that perfect cut spot where we got to see all the dopest people. My first Shades of Hip-Hop tape was called Shades of Hip-Hop Volume 1, Trains to Newark, NYC. Because growing up in Plainfield, when we would take the train, like every aspect was telling you about everywhere outside of Plainfield. You're saying that was like dope. You know what I'm saying? So it's telling you if you want to go somewhere dope, train right here that leads you to Newark or New York. Hop on one train and you're gonna be in New York or New York. And say that's just telling you here, this is where you go. You want to get some dope shit, go to Newark or New York. And saying that's where we was at. Like we got to be right next to all the dope shit, a couple of train stops away. You know what I'm saying? So we've always had that greatness in us because we were raised up with it. You know what I'm saying? We raised in the shadow of greatness our whole lives, had access, and we had the same access to shit that we closer to shit in Manhattan than people in the Bronx are. You say if you in Newark, you closer to Manhattan and you know, Lower East Side and all that shit than people in the Bronx are. You know what I'm saying? So we had just as quick access to everything they had, like anything that you can get in the world, you can get it in Manhattan. Bootlegs, everything. Clothes, everything. You know what I'm saying? Music, anything. Well, we can get it just as fast as they could. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't have nothing we didn't have. So that's why New Jersey was like a really great place, because even though we had access to greatness, we still had to have that humbleness because we wasn't from New York. So, and we had to grow up in the shadow of bigger people. So it's like the younger brother who's tough as fuck because all his older brothers is big as shit and they always beat him up the whole time and shit. So it's like now the younger, smaller one, he tougher than all of them. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I feel New Jersey was. That's how I felt New Jersey was.
Well, I thank you for this great interview, and I want you to give everybody your social media so they can keep up with you and possibly keep, like, you know, and keep engaging.
Hey, but listen, man, just check me out, man. On Twitter, everything is Kurt Nice, HHL. That's on Twitter and Instagram. Also, man, I am going to be posting some more stuff, and we'll talk again. I'll give you the more updates for what's coming more in the future like that. But yeah, just hit me up on my Twitter and Instagram, and I'll give you the updates of what I'm doing and stuff. You know, just, and you know, on my Twitter, be ready for some politics stuff.
Hey, man, that's what hip hop is, man. Hey, man,
right.
like I said, I firmly appreciate this interview. So, like I said, once again, salute to Sun Tzu, because he introduced us, and that event was great. You know what I'm saying? And
Thank you.
I think that you should do more of that, because one thing about us, I don't really like to shout out other people, other people's interviews, but Ralph McDaniels, Freddie, Fab Five Freddy, Doggy Diamonds, Justin Hunt, Combat Jack. Y'all the people, and y'all the people who really inspired the journalistic side of myself, along with Roland Martin and like Larry King. Like, y'all are the ones who really gave me the battery in my back to do what I do now. And for me to interview you, it's an honor, humble salute. Thank you, and I pray to talk to you even more as, you know, time goes on. You know,
I definitely want to thank you, man. I appreciate you, and much respect to you, man, for having me on, man. I appreciate all those good words, brother. So just keep doing what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Because I haven't kept the same energy to keep doing this as much as you have right now. So that's why we need people like you to keep this thing going. You know what I'm saying? I'm in the more the retired stage right now when it comes to doing all those interviews and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's up to y'all to keep this information out there, man. Keep that inspiration and give people the truth, man. Give them that wide perspective so that they just not shut in the corner and like not realizing what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Give them that perspective, a lot of different people that to bring to.
And with that being said, it's time for the rapid fire questions. You ready to try that?
All right, cool.
So the rapid fire questions are not yes, no questions. These are questions that I ask based on what you do, inspired by what you do, and it shows your depth and knowledge of not only yourself, but the culture. Ready to have some fun?
All right, let's go.
What song or album from another art or from an artist perfectly describes your life?
What you mean, like from hip hop or from other?
Hey, man, take a stab at it.
Perfectly describes my life? Wow.
Yeah, a song or album. Yeah.
A song or album that perfectly describes my life.
Yeah, you.
Well, you know what? One of my favorite albums, I'll say, like just off the like one that like encapsulates my feelings like that is Balloon Mind State by De La Soul.
Really?
Yeah. Go back, Balloon Mind State in the 90s when that dropped, that had aspects to it that gave me like more inspiration to like just creatively, not nothing like just specific saying this, because there's conscious albums obviously and stuff like that you know give that to me. There's stuff that obviously that KRS-ONE did, and there's stuff that even back to the roots and stuff like that. But those underground cats actually, those underground cats like the De La Souls, the Roots, the Mos Defs, and the Pharoah Monches, those are actually the ones that speak to the energy that really inspired the originality that I want to see in hip hop. You say other people conscious, this and that, that's Poor Righteous Teachers are some of my favorite. Like, look at anything fucking Poor Righteous Teachers. Like, I agree with like most of the shit that he be saying, like what Wise Intelligence be saying. So, but you know, beyond just the regular conscious stuff, the inspirational creativity. I got like Balloon Mind State was for some reason was always very inspirational.
That's dope. You're the first person that ever said that album too. That's dope. That's dope.
Yeah, check that one out, man. Check that out again, man. There's some joints on it. He had Maceo Parker actually playing horns on that, you know what I mean, on that album and stuff like that. Like, there's some bangers on that shit.
That's the one with Break of Dawn on it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that was a great album. That was my song. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
So here's my next question. As a journalist, our responsibility is to bring the people the truth of an artist. Why do you think it is important to invest in the artist and not in the playlist?
Well, I feel that the artist can be more influenced than the corporatization of that playlist. So the artists, even if they're not up to 100% par that we want them to be, they can always change and become that. Whereas the corporate playlist or the song list that artist represents is not necessarily the real them. That's going to be sometimes the shit that got them money. That's going to be the shit that, you know, just put them in a good position in life. That's not necessarily what we want, like the best aspect of them. Like, because to me, I will say, it's hard to say this because, like, in a sense, like some of KRS's best stuff he's ever said has been on records, but because I know all the behind the scenes shit and this and that, it's not to the masses of people, but to me, it's going to be the talks and shit that we had with him as a person and as an artist and stuff like that. It's not going to be the records he made. But to most people, though, that's what's they're going to get in contact with, and that's what they're going to be inspired by.
I feel that. So how would you define hip hop in 5 albums?
Hip hop in 5 albums.
Yep.
Wow. See, because I don't know, like, because see, I would want to define hip hop as. See, there's so many ways to define hip hop. But some people say, you know, we talk about the H law, health, love, awareness, and wealth. Like, that's what we want. Like, that's what all hip hoppers really want deep down. Health, love, awareness, and wealth. That's what we kind of want. But then when you look at, like, the elements of hip hop, like b-boying, MCing, breaking, and all like that, I don't know if there's 5 albums that say all of that. I will say this, though. I will say this. For the best aspects of, like, I don't think there's any other person besides, I'm sorry, KRS-ONE, who has epitomized hip hop culture more. So when you look at edutainment to, you know, self-destruction, and like, I mean, like, I would just be ended up naming KRS albums. You know what I'm saying? So
you gonna put his album?
I kind of think like, yeah, like Sex and Violence, like you're saying, like I would just name all KRS albums in a sense, and that's might not be fair because I would want to go back to like maybe during the b-boy days, in that, it would have to be maybe something from Run DMC.
Raising Hell?
Raising Hell, or maybe, yeah, it would have to be something from Run DMC, because I was going to say maybe something from like a Slick Rick with the storytelling in this and that.
Slick Rick?
Just a Slick Rick.
All right, that's 2 albums. KRS-ONE, you pick 3. Give me 2 more.
I kind of want to say, but something more modern. Like, you know, I would say, let's see, what's something more modern that epitomizes hip hop culture? So like, I mean, people would normally say like To Pimp a Butterfly and stuff like that, but I would say I can't even think of anybody modern right now. Well, fuck it, like so, right, like the 4 hours. I mean, like
4 hours, okay.
Yeah,
that's
like like
one.
maybe their last, one of their last joints, or even Life in the Balance, or one of the Old Earth album, like one of them joints. Like, yeah.
You got one more. KRS-ONE, you had You said any of his.
I gave you a variety.
Is one.
Yeah, it's like
Slick Rick, The Adventures of Slick Rick, Great Adventures of Slick Rick, Run DMC, Raising Hell. You got the 4 Owls, the last joint you said, but you got one more.
Yeah, because that'll give you a good aspect. Let's see what else. Maybe something more party, like something more like something more like that does give you that more fun element too of hip hop. What would I say that would epitomize more of the say
You going Kid and
you know
Play
what?
on?
You know what? You know what? I'm gonna throw you for a motherfucking loop right now.
No, just
I'm gonna throw you for a motherfucking loop, and I'm gonna epitomize the fun, but at the same time, all the freaking aspects of hip hop were on this freaking album. Damn it. I'm the rapper. He's the DJ.
Okay, Fresh Prince.
The first album by Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff.
That was a classic.
Go back to that classic. Ready Rock C is a beatbox on that album. You know what I'm saying? DJ Jazzy Jeff was the best DJ in the whole world at that time. And that kind of epitomizes the fun aspect of the non-serious aspect of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Strictly not serious, just fun. You know what I mean? Like that's a part of hip hop too. The partying and that shit. That's a part of hip hop too.
I got to add one question in there after that because it made me think of this. Hip hop is the voice of the inner city and now the world, but it comes from the pain and struggle of the people who are not being heard. So hip hop has a lot of stories and a lot of voices. What voice do you want to hear in hip hop that you believe has not been heard yet?
What type of voice would I want to be heard in hip hop that has not been heard yet? Well, you know what? Just on a personal kind of note, I want to see the voice of the behind the scenes people heard more. I want to see the voice of the producer type person heard more. Not necessarily the beat producer, but the producer, like the video producer, the guys behind the scenes that actually make up the culture. You know what I'm saying? Like I want those voices because there's so many jobs in freaking hip hop that people don't talk about. They think that the only jobs is being a DJ, a producer, or a rapper. Nah, there's 1,000 jobs in hip hop. Like you brought up freaking anime influenced hip hoppers and this and that. There's so many there's marketers and jobs behind the scenes and gaffers and so many production people that actually make up hip hop culture that I think that voice is lost a little bit because those people that actually build shit and like make shit behind the scenes so that people could shine and do all this great stuff and to make the image come off, like that's a job. You know what I'm saying? That's a job somebody could have. You know what I'm saying? So like don't discourage people away from them jobs either, man. Like that, the cats that build houses and all that shit, that's important too. And ain't the cat that just sells the house. Everybody just want to be a real estate agent. Nobody want to build a house, do plumbing, be an electrician. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody want to build a house, they just want to sell it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so I think like the shit that builds hip hop, those are the people that I want to see like get promoted and that voice get heard more in hip hop. The people that's building it up.
Okay, here's the last 2 questions. The first one is, what are the 5 most important moments you've captured in your career of hip hop?
Okay. Well, top 2 real quick, real easy would be the Cypher, which is the Mos Def conversation with Big Pun, DMX, Cannabis, and again, that was the first time Cannabis ever spit second round knockout in public. The first time he ever said that. That was the first time Pun spit Dream Shatter reverse in public like that. You know what I'm saying? Because that was to come later on his album. You know what I'm saying? Everybody was at the A game. That was a Cypher plus the most thoroughest, in-depth conversation about hip-hop culture from some people that went on to be icons. So that is like my top favorite one. Then of course, the Hit Factory Rhyme Cypher was actually my second favorite, like one that I actually did. That was the one with 50 Cent was in the cypher with Nori. That was actually Nori's press day. We were doing press for Nori's album, NORE album coming out. So when he dropped his first album, and Nori got all of them to come because Nori from Queens, and so is 50. So he got Consequence and why I'm forgetting what name. Punchline, of course, Punchline. You know what I'm saying? He was actually the best in the cipher at that time. Was Punchline and shit. If y'all remember, you know what I'm saying? Because shouts to Punchline and Wordsworth. You know what I'm saying? That was real tight and everything. So that was one of my next ones caught on camera that I really loved. I would have to say some of my personal favorites was my Jay-Z interview that I did at Brick City the same night that Brick City closed down, kind of like, because that was a night there was a big fight at Brick City that night. But that was what the and I can't remember what year that was, like 96. That was when Jay-Z album, when Reasonable Doubt came out. So Biggie was still alive too. It was back then. So that same night, as well as another concert that I did there at Brick City a little while earlier than that, was with Lil Kim. That was one of my favorites. Being on the road with Chris, doing the EO Dub show, bringing KRS-ONE to EO Dub. That was I think it was like the dopest night ever at EO Dub and shit, and that's saying a lot. But the first time that KRS-ONE ever came to End of the Week, the longest running open mic showcase in New York City at that time, that was when we brought him there. That was dope. That's on video too. Y'all can check that out. That was the illest fucking night, one of the illest nights ever, because it was a small club, but a small packed club where your favorite artist of all is like 10 feet away from you the whole time, spitting all the best shit they have in their catalog. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what that night was like. You know what I'm saying? That was dope as hell. One night that was ill was smoking a blunt in the fucking Madison Square Garden with Busy B and Chip Fu of the Foo Schnickens backstage while Rakim and KRS was doing an old school show on stage. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when I first got into Madison Square Garden, the smell of some strong, loud ass trees brought me all the way up into the green room. I just followed the smell of the trees, and right at the end of that damn, like, you ever see a cartoon where you see like the waves of smoke coming, and then the person smells it and they just start floating in back to where the smell's going? Well, that cloud of smoke led right to Busy B and shit. He was in the back of the green room smoking the L and shit while we was waiting for KRS and them to go on stage and shit. And then here comes Chip Fu, and he was like, "Hey, bro, what's going on?" He offered me the blunt, and I never thought I would. That was the first time I was ever inside of Madison Square Garden. I never thought I was, being there smoking a blunt with Busy B. So I don't know how many that is, but
that was about like 8. No, but that's good. Like I said, that's the thing that makes hip hop special is the moments. I mean, like I said, from my experience, I don't know what it's like to see Run come out on stage and do Run's House for the first time. But for people who was there that I know, they can't even describe it, because the atmosphere defined the moment.
Right.
Okay. So
that's what, real quick, I just want to say that, like, that's the that was the good thing about us coming into the video age. Hip hop came into a video age that changed hip hop forever, and I was a part of that transition back in the 90s when hip hop transitioned to a video. Everything transitioned to a video age, but hip hop specifically, because for the first time ever, we were able to see ourselves like reflected back at us from the media and shit. So then that's when people started, putting on their different costumes and shit like that real good, like behind the scenes and shit. Now it's a little bit different, but that ability to give us that shine and that light changed us. You know what I'm saying? And I think there's a lot of bad things happen, but it made us grow regardless of what. You know what I'm saying? Because we got to be just growing from it now.
So once again, everybody, thank you for paying attention to Kurt Nice and Heritage Hip Hop. It's time for the last question, which is the most important question asked for the first interview. So when you come back, you get a different one. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But it's the most important question asked in the first interview, and is this. 500 years from now, when we unearth Shades of Hip-Hop from the Hip Hop Hall of Fame in the Library of Congress, 500 years from now, you're not going to be here, but your influence is going to be here because of the work that you did. So my most important question is, what is the legacy that you left behind that made the world better because you did Shades of Hip Hop and hip hop culture?
Well, I would hope that my work, any of the work that I do, any of the talks that I have with people, any of the lectures I might do with people, any times I come out to an event and talk about hip hop culture, my whole purpose is to just inspire people to be their most creative and best selves. That's what I want my work to do. I want my work to inspire you to be more creative. Like, yo, I see how he did that shit. I want to do that shit. I could do it better. I want you to be inspired to be your best and most creative selves while being responsible. And I hope that that's what the end of the day, like, the people take from what I did. They might not get the responsibility lesson too much, but at least they're gonna get the be inspired to be the most creative person that you can and the best show your best skill. Be inspired to show your best skill creative. That's what I try for my work to do.
And with that being said, let's show the inspiration that this man has given us all. For everybody that's out there listening, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
So everybody out there listening, Shadez of Hip-Hop has inspired Heritage Hip-Hop to go bigger than just YouTube. You can follow us on Anchor, and Anchor distributes Heritage Hip-Hop on 7 different platforms. So wherever you get your podcast needs met, whether it's Spotify, Apple Media, Deezer, Google Podcasts, Heritage Hip-Hop is there. You can also follow us. It's out the way. You can also follow us on heritagehiphop.com, where we are more than music and we celebrate the hip-hop culture. We have live interviews and we do interviews with people in the industry and people who are not in the industry. So we celebrate your future favorite artists today, independent artists, international artists, and industry artists just the same way. Look for this interview, our world premiere playlist where we highlight artists who are not only putting in work but representing the culture, our live shows that we have. And if you like bars and not mumble rap, we have acapella bars called the Truth Behind Bars series. We salute the women in the industry, which is our Fatty's Place division, music videos, our feature playlist, which is right now Heritage Hip Hop playlist number 5. We celebrate comic book and anime culture, which is Blurred Hop.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. Shout out to all the black nerds out there. We got to talk about that next time.
All right. Galleries, blogs, versus is people who are in the hip hop culture that don't rap. So we have a preschool teacher here and a model/mortician who serves in our culture as well. For our members only page, you become a member to our website, you get these mixed CDs or playlists, mixed albums, whatever, and you also get a free gift by clicking on the free music button. Here is the shop. We'll show you that later. But most importantly, if you're looking to change your life, we also help with credit repair. If you're an MC, if you're an artist, and you don't know what a Schedule C form is, you're cheating yourself and you're broke. Own your art so nobody can own you and your art. Here are our many sponsors for Heritage Hip Hop. But remember, become a member, sign up for membership. As you see, it's free. There's nothing here charging you. Benefits of Heritage Hip Hop. And lastly, we have a store. This is our store on storefrontier.com/Heritage Hip Hop, where you can buy some apparel if you want to support the state of New Jersey. You see this logo right here, which is behind me during the interview. We have masks, we have hoodies, we have sweaters, we have long sleeve, we got baby stuff, kids for kids, stuff for kids and girls and everything. So everybody out there, Heritage Hip Hop is the platform that supports you and celebrates you, God's culture, which is hip hop. With that being said, this is Karev for Heritage Hip Hop with the Honorable Kurt Nice.
Thank you, sir.
Hip hop and more. And we say peace and we out.
Word. Much love, brother.